but you're going nowhere. Don't blame me for what you've done, because I know that you were having fun.
Welcome to the Clarified Realty Podcast, exposing the real estate secrets your agent doesn't want you to know. Here's your host, Tom Clary.
Well, don't you just walk away. That's when I'll say.
Welcome to Clarified Realty Podcast. I'm Tom Clary. I'm your host. I'm a real estate agent here in the beautiful state of California, Los Angeles to be exact. I'm here with my co-host, Ron Bruno. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Good. Well, we kind of had a week off, and you were out and about. Well,
Yeah.
You were like celebrating your birthday or something,
Woo-hoo,
wasn't it?
yeah.
What was going on there?
So my dad flew in from South Carolina, and Karen and I, we headed to, my dad and his wife, Vicky, we headed to Palm Desert.
Oh, nice.
So we were out baking out in the desert.
God, how hot was it?
It got in. It was like, I don't know, 104, and then got up
been out
to...
there, it's been like 120 something.
Maybe it got to 109. It was pretty mild, actually.
Yeah. And you were
for the
the
desert.
Were you like out by the pool?
That's all you do.
Like,
Yeah, that's all you do. You just go to the pool and, you get your floats and your fruity drinks, and they come by and they give you something, or you bring your beer and, make sure that it's not in glass. So,
right. Plastic only by the pool.
That's right. Plastic only by the pool. And they
Yeah.
really enforce that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we grilled out and, went to a couple of restaurants there and celebrated the birthday.
I saw the photo at the casino in front of the,
Yes.
the slot machine.
Agua caliente.
Agua caliente.
First time there.
By the way, that's Spanish for
hot water.
hot water. Because
Yes.
you're going to get into a lot of hot water
You
there.
do
if
get
you
into
play
hot
too much
water
money,
if
I'll tell you that.
you go betting. And it's funny because I'm not a gambler,
Yeah.
and neither is my dad. So my dad and I, we just went to the bar and had some extremely watered down drinks. And
Really? Are you accusing the Agua Caliente bar of being...
I am.
Wow.
I'm talking to you, Pedro, because your drink was not
No bueno.
no bueno. No bueno. I wanted a 7 and 7, and
You had
and
more agua in your caliente.
I really did have way too much agua in my caliente. It was not fair. That was
That's not
not
good.
fun. Not good. Not good. I'm getting beer from now on. They're liquor drinks.
Because it's in a bottle or a can. You can blame Anheuser-Busch, not
exactly.
Pedro.
That's right. I'm blaming Pedro, and
Don't
that
blame
really is his name. I'm just not stereotyping, but yeah, it really was Pedro. Anyway, so what were we talking about? So Karen, my wife, and Vicky, they hit the slot machines.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
they were playing all these crazy games, and Vicky's kind of the slot machine whisperer, right? So
Right.
she'll try this game, and if that's not the one, then she'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Until she gets it just right.
Yeah, well, it's like, what does she like? Walk around with a divining rod? Like this is
Right.
this is the machine. This
Exactly.
is the one that's going to produce millions of dollars.
That's right. But she always wins.
That's
Always wins.
amazing.
And we go on cruises all the time, and I mean that's like a highlight of the trip and the whole thing.
It's weird. I don't understand slot machines anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
it
It's
used to
interact.
be-
It's just interaction.
it
It's like a
used to
video.
be-
It's like a video game.
Bullshit. It's not even that anymore, because it used to be like, oh, there's a lemon, right? I mean, or
Right.
whatever. And it's like, it's very easy for me to understand that is a winner.
No, and now it's like if you get the spin wheel there
Diagonal
and
with
a
the
this
thing,
and a thing, yeah,
and
yeah.
the picture of Ricky Ricardo,
Right.
and the thing that leads you to a bonus that you hit the button. God damn it! I mean, why are we overcomplicating things?
I know my life has made it big when I have licensing rights where
To a-
my
to a
character
slot
would be in a slot machine
coming
in a
up
casino.
soon. Coming up
Yes.
soon. The Clarified Realty Podcast
Slot machine. I love it.
Love it. So we got any news today? What's going on with the
So one of the great things about technology is, I started to listen to Alexa, right? So
Alexa.
Amazon has the Amazon Alexa, and no, we don't have the Dot or the Cube or the box or whatever they call it. Echo, that's another thing that they have. I actually hacked my phone and set up this thing called Reverb, where I can access Alexa skills.
Yeah,
So-
well, and by the way, I think what really kind of brought this whole thing on is because, and it's a little surprise announcement to everybody, we're actually creating our own Alexa skill, and that's going to be
Yes,
coming out
we
the
are.
next week.
Yeah, I'm
Or
really
actually,
excited about
by the
that.
time this thing airs, but before the podcast airs, we'll probably have it up and running.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the daily briefing, and you guys can go and get the Clarified Realty Podcast daily briefing, and I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I'm really pumped up about this.
I'm really excited about it.
You know, we do our news segments at the beginning of every podcast episode, and this is going to be every day.
Yeah,
every single day.
day.
So I'm going to be scouring the news or listening to the news
Well, we're
and
going to
sharing the story.
We're going to start off with some news stories that are pertinent to the real estate world, and really kind of give you guys a glimpse at what's happening out in the market. And then we're going to have a little like a tip of the day from me, where it's basically, look, if you're out there searching for a home or you're selling your home, here's a tip to kind of make things easier on you. And I think it's going to be you just when you're sitting in your when you're sitting on your couch, or if you're brushing your teeth, you kind of go, hey, Alexa, play me your daily briefing, and we'll show up there.
Yeah, and I mean, I love it for the car. So as I was driving, I just
started doing that too,
hit
by
my
the way.
Reverb and said, Alexa, play my daily briefing. And I have all sorts of different providers out there. So I have the Wall Street Journal, I have Bloomberg, I have CNN, I have Fox. Because I'm balanced.
Yeah, sure you are.
Yeah. No, seriously, I have it.
You're balanced like an elephant on roller skates.
You told me. That's an image. That's pretty funny.
Pretty balanced.
But one of those skills on there is NPR and NPR Marketplace.
Yeah.
And they actually, there actually is an article, that popped up, and I thought this was pretty appropriate given our speaker for today.
Yeah.
Steve Hochman, and it's really funny because the headline was, "What's to blame for the demise of coal and nuclear plants? Another fossil fuel."
Yeah, and what's interesting, when you first brought this up, I was kind of like, what the hell does this have to do with real estate? But it does actually. Go ahead.
So what happened was, Rick Perry, the Secretary of Energy, he commissioned a study.
I still can't get used to that.
I know, it's great.
I feel like that little kid in the viral video is like, is this real life?
Yes.
Is this real life?
This is real life.
Rick Perry is the Secretary of Energy.
Yep.
All right.
Linda. Listen to me, Linda. Yeah, that's the viral video that I remember. So Rick Perry and Trump, they issued this study, and it was really funny because you would think that it's got to be wind and solar and the credits that the government is giving. That's the reason why you have the reason why the coal industry and you're putting
taking a
out,
dive.
You're
putting
the
people,
coal industry
coal
and
workers out of business.
Yeah, you're putting them out of business. And actually, no, it's natural gas.
Right.
Yeah.
So
natural gas, it's cheaper, it's easier to produce. And that's really the punchline of the whole thing.
But in terms of how this applies to real estate,
it's really, that's really where things are going when it comes to homes, right?
Yeah.
So people are thinking about their own footprint, their carbon footprint, if you will.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about, putting solar on their roofs.
Yeah, I mean,
creating smart homes.
I've got a client right now that we're talking about how we needed a roof, and she's like, oh, I'm thinking about getting one of those Tesla rooftop
those
styles.
Are slick.
They're sexy.
Yeah, they are.
Hell yeah, they're sexy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's having an impact on the real estate market.
It is.
And it's not.
It is.
And it's because and it's so funny that this study actually saw the light of day because they were really trying to kind of show that how terribly these, wind and solar and all that is for the, industries.
Yeah, they were going to use it as part of their stump speech
Yeah.
of why, they need to further push down the wind and solar industries and
But what they found
lobbies.
out
And
is
what they
that
found out that it's another fossil fuel. It's like, oh, okay, well, we can't really rally and go against ourselves. So,
Right.
yeah, there was a little bit of
it's even more
a black
remarkable
eye.
that thing got out. because I mean, I think that gives it even more credence because
Yeah.
it's, if the other side is like, well, we got to,
And apparently it came out last night, so it was NPR snapped it up,
Yeah, right.
and made it their headline on their site and during the Alexa briefing.
I'm
so
sure that they said their Alexa briefing very quietly.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
NPR, fossil fuels are, another fossil fuel has taken the place of it.
That's right.
But I mean, it makes sense. People need to move into the future, and it's good. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. So, you have the big, the generation where they had the McMansions, and it was all about the, keeping up with what the Joneses and the neighbors and everything else. And even in the highest luxury segment that can afford, humongous home, they're in the Hamptons. I was reading about this. They were saying that in the Hamptons, they are actually buying smaller homes.
Right.
Now they're decking it out, making it look amazing.
Of course.
But it's not this massive home because they're thinking about, well, I don't want to be away from family.
Right.
I don't want to get lost in the home. I don't want to pay for all that energy.
I'm only going to be
of
there
that
like
home.
certain weekends of the
Right.
year and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's filtering to all different segments.
Wow. Well, that's great.
Yeah. It's not just hippies.
Well, and hippies,
Hippies started it, but, now it's becoming a little more mainstream.
From hippies to hipsters.
That's right.
There you go. I think it's a really good time for me. I'm going to bring in my guest here. He's a really interesting guest. His name's Steve Hochman, who is my favorite superhero, by the way. Hochman was what I used to watch when I was a kid. He owns the company Solarhawk, and he's an energy efficiency expert, and he works with customers to broker energy programs for them that really help maximize the benefits of solar energy, maximizes their protections, and hopefully in the end saves them money. And Steve, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here.
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
So why don't you go ahead and let's break this down. When you say that you're a broker of energy product, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, you're going to see whatever, any solar company is going to have, any company has salespeople selling for that particular company. I mean, what does a broker do? What does a real estate broker do? You're trying to sell that house, but you're trying to get people the best financing or the best whatever it is that could package that deal. So solar is an amazing thing. I mean, bottom line is 20 minutes of the sun can power the entire planet for a year. I mean, when you think about that, it is ridiculous. I mean, solar works.
There were even, blowing up cliff sides to go digging for, dead dinosaurs. It just doesn't make sense. If we could harness something that's so available every single day of the year. I mean, even when that's one of the things that I think the other side always makes is their big argument is like, well, the sun goes down or what do you do on a cloudy day? And it just seems like how are we that backwards that we're still thinking that's an issue?
I mean, no. Well, first of all, I have a lot of people on whatever side, who have solar because that's my passion. That's the reason why I got in. I mean, to back up, because there's a lot of great things that you guys brought up. I mean, back to the point about solar is that solar works if it's done right.
Right.
And there's a lot of different ways that it's not done right.
So go through that a little bit. Why don't we talk about how is it done, quote unquote, right?
Well, so the different elements of solar is, what kind of equipment are you using, which is what most people just look at and think that's what it's all about. But I think more importantly is who's installing for you, and then you have your financing and you have your education.
Right.
If you do not, and people don't like the word education, but I mean, the bottom line is how is this game played?
Right.
What is the utility doing to you? What is the utility going to do to you? What have they done? What's coming up? How do we win this game?
Right.
And depending on your roof, depending on your utility, there's a lot of different situations for people. For you, for instance, you live in Northridge with DWP.
Yeah.
I have a company there that I'm going to be using that I'm not going to use in Fontana with Edison.
So it's very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very specific to the actual place, the location.
Yeah,
what
it's
you're
like,
going to do.
mean, you need a different shirt than he does. I mean, if you're going to go work out and you're a big guy and you need a triple XL
And by the way, I
sweatshirt.
would pick another shirt anyway because his shirt is
Yeah, I
ugly
mean, this
as
guy,
sin.
he's got a unique style.
I don't know how he even... Do you open your eyes in the morning when you're
Good
going to your
Lord.
closet?
This is like the third time
I'm
you've
just saying,
you've said something about my shirt.
I think
on
it's
this
hysterical.
podcast.
Everybody keeps on bringing up your shirts. I can't resist.
It's awesome.
So anyway, you were saying, sorry.
So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
people, it's that kind of tailor-made. It's
well,
you
it's
know,
just, I mean, there's a lot of, so the bottom line is I've been in solar for 7 years, and I was drawn to solar for a couple of reasons. As I was telling you guys, I was a producer. I came out here to make movies and television.
It's so funny that I mean, we have that in common, which is really interesting.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really important because it's about presenting things to people, and everybody's, very quick. Everybody's got a quick attention span, and you have to really be able to convey things very quickly to people. So I was a producer. I was doing a lot of great sports related stuff, and then we were in Alaska shooting a documentary where we were following the oil companies dumping their waste directly into the water off the coast of Alaska.
Sweet God.
Now, when I was a kid, I almost died several times when I was a kid. I had asthma allergies, hay fever.
Wow.
I can't tell you how many nights, 3 a.m, I was in the bathroom with the shower and the steam with
geez.
my mother.
Yeah.
So when I was in Alaska and we were shooting this stuff, I had that physical reaction.
Oh, did you really?
And I realized for me, that was my point of going, well, that's my passion. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
So I came back to LA and I learned that, hey, dirty energy, most of our electricity is coming from oil, coal, natural gas, et cetera, is now clean energy is about the same price. That's 7 years ago. That's when we got into it, where it was like, wow, this is a no-brainer for me, and it sounds like for you too.
Yeah.
And then when I got out there and I saw that, not everybody, because first of all, not everybody's aware. This is all about perspective.
Right.
A lot of the stuff you guys are talking about is people not knowing exactly what's going on, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
But and I also realized that, for me, this is about the fact that Delaware just fell off Antarctica. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, it's forget about who caused all this stuff or whatever. We all know if you're in a car, if you're in a car with your 2-year-old daughter and there's a busted muffler in front of you, what is your first move when that light turns green? You're getting away from that car, right? This is not. We know this. I mean, this is just, who cares what side of the. So the bottom line is that why are we adding? We all know, we could see this. Anybody who's over 20 years old has seen a difference in the environment. They can tell there's a difference. So why accelerate the problem when 20 minutes of the sun can power the entire planet for a year? Like when we have, I'll turn this up.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
So, the reason why I was saying that is because that's why I got into it. But I don't talk that much about it unless I'm with somebody I see wants to talk about it. For me, it's really more about, you want to pay this much, you want to pay this much.
Yeah.
You want to go from Blockbuster to Netflix and own your own movies? That's what solar is. I mean, I always say to people, how much money would you have saved if you were still paying $1 a gallon for gas? Right?
Yeah,
and that reaction is what I always get. And I say, okay, now after paying $1 a gallon for gas, tomorrow you own the gas station and your gas is free for the rest of your life. That's solar.
Right.
That's it. Serious. So it has nothing to, so we can get into the environment, and it's amazing, and I'm so glad that I have hundreds of customers, and my customers are solar ambassadors.
Right.
So that's the other part.
And that's
of it.
really what what I've been talking about in terms of like even with the Prius, making that transition, having people along for the ride, literally, basically, out there saying, no, I'm making a comment that I'm not only just saving money, but I'm also on top of it. I care.
Right.
And whether or not I'm 100% there, I'm still, like you said, an ambassador for what I'm trying to say.
And I love where you're at, and I love, my friends are like that. But, again, as someone who is out there trying to expand, I mean, to me, every single building should have solar on it. And in fact, we're going there. Like you were mentioning something before. I mean, a lot of people, these are facts that I bring to people so they're aware of what's actually happening. Like since 2014, for instance, all new homes built in California must be solar ready.
I didn't know that.
That means
that's
all
interesting.
homes have to be built with solar panels or built with a south-facing array so the homeowner could put solar on it. So
I'll be damned, I didn't know that.
It's incredible, right?
Wow.
So it's kind of like, remember those TVs with the little VCR slots
Right,
in it?
yeah, right.
You think you can get one of those at Best Buy today?
Yeah, right.
No, right?
Yeah,
but, so you can get, when you get a TV today, it's got Wi-Fi, HDMI. So solar is like the HDMI of new homes, right? You're not going to be building it with a VCR slot.
Oh my gosh, that makes such a huge difference.
It's ridiculous. And now it's the same thing for commercial. San Francisco made a law that all new commercial buildings have to be so they're going there, and it's not because, and I wish it was, I wish it was because people are trying to be green. It's just more cost effective. The government, right? Forget about the governments because people can say, well, whatever. The Department of Defense, 3.3 gigawatts of renewable energy, 58% solar powered. And it's because of cost effectiveness. It's not about the green thing. And as a matter of fact, it's also because of protection, like in Afghanistan, for instance. gas is like $1 a gallon.
Right.
But it really costs, the effective cost is like $400 a gallon.
To get it to them.
Because, right, exactly, because the enemy attacks our
Right,
supply lines.
of
So
course.
You guys, you saw the movie The Martian?
Oh, yeah, right. Absolutely.
Remember how he put his pen on it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same type of thing, is the
Right.
military can do that, you know? And then on their bases, they're saving a fortune and whatever.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is everyone's going there. The whole world is, Germany's number one. I mean, everybody's ahead of us.
Right.
And I'm not going to get into the political ramifications of the Paris Accords, but the Paris Accords, this was this was just like a bunch of people around a table, 185 countries.
Yeah.
Other countries who have, by the way, have seen, I'm kind of stopped myself because I don't want to alienate people with the politics. But there's countries out there that have literally had to take their people off of their islands to move them someplace
Yeah.
else because they see the water level rising.
Yeah.
I mean, in our own country, Miami spent hundreds of millions of dollars to raise it. This is reality.
We even had a story on one of our news shows about how the people who used to have the beachfront property, that was like the thing, right? That that's where so much huge value, where they have to literally think about what's going to happen in 20 years.
Right.
Is that really going to be the prime property? Because it could be 10 feet underwater.
Right. And the other cool thing about it is that it's just a bunch of crap to say, hey, well, what's it going to cost us in jobs? I mean, when I have a graph that I show people if they need to see it, but like the renewable sector is growing in leaps and bounds, and the coal industry too. Even if we were, and nobody's saying let's take away coal or oil or whatever, I mean, let's say we keep it at that level, right? The coal industry itself, as you said, natural gas is supplanting it, right? Because it's more cost effective than ripping coal out of the ground. And number two, they've automated themselves anyway. So even if they didn't lose jobs, they're going to lose jobs because they're losing human jobs. So that's the reality. And the fact, and what really is so frustrating about all this stuff is forget about the environment and the climate, and that's what we care about, right? If we really are wanting to do this on a business level, why are we not attacking this virgin territory, right? Renewable energy. So, the Paris Accords, right? The world really is saying to us, please, America, take over the mantle, be the leader. They want us to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, China and India.
Because that's the way it's so traditionally been, I think, in the past. I mean, we always were the people who would take up the torch and run with things.
Right.
I mean, so go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's just silly because the market is enormous when you look at the whole world and that gets stopped by little stupid things about, well, China's not, well, yes, they are. I mean, but who cares? I mean, when you have a whole planet that is going renewable, some of these really poor countries are forcing themselves to go, like Kenya. So there's this huge market, and America can take over, just walk in. You want to be the, I'll throw this one out there politically, but you want to be the businessman president? Well, then let's make America the renewable king of the world. What the hell are you doing? It's just stupid, business-wise.
And I think that what I don't understand in terms of...
You might want to out the Secretary of State, right? So you have Rex Tillerson as the...
You know what's funny about Rex Tillerson? Because here's the
right?
thing about Exxon. It's so funny because of the Paris Accords, right? And we were all, why is it that one of the top fossil fuel polluters in the world, Exxon, was in favor of staying in the Paris Accords? Because they are smart and they have brains and they have grandchildren also. And they're going, look, I want my grandkids to survive also. And as a matter of fact, a lot of those companies have already divested anyway. They're going into algae. You see a lot of these commercials. They've already done it. They know that they have to do it. Now they're trying to milk the cow. They're the king of the hill, so they're trying to stay there. But the bottom line is they themselves are moving. So it's just, it's stupidity.
So what I was going to say before was that if there's this false equivalence that, the coal jobs are going away. Mm-hmm. So thus, they're they're going to go away forever. But why couldn't there be a transition from the coal jobs to renewable energy jobs? Mm-hmm. Why not open up in Kentucky a, solar panel factory? Why couldn't you do something like that and say, hey, listen, you're not working in that hole in the ground anymore. You're now working in this factory over here.
Yep.
What part of this equation am I missing?
You know what's so ironic about that? And you guys might know this also. The coal museum, right, in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Guess where the electricity comes from?
Solar
panels. They put solar panels on the coal museum. Are you kidding me? Come on, guys. 2 + 2 is 4. I mean, you got to be kidding me. But yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. Like,
Right.
let's transition. And by the way, you go into these coal country cities,
Yeah.
ask these people with the black lung that have
Oh,
an
I know.
accelerator. Do they want to continue to do these? Is this the job that you want? Do you want to send your kid down into that mine? They don't want these jobs.
Yeah,
so
right.
yes, I agree 100%. Why
They
aren't
want
we?
jobs, period. They want to be able to make a good living, and that makes total sense.
Now, here's another thing too, and this is more about the health issue of what this is. Coal is basically the liver of the planet. All right, so when it rains,
Oh,
the water
interesting.
rushes
Yeah,
down through the coal. Is like you ever seen like charcoal pills, and
Yeah,
you've seen
right, that makes total
It's a
sense.
filter.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
not only are we removing our liver from our planet when we rip it out of the ground, but then we puff it into the air and leach it into the water. So we're destroying our water supply and our air supply while we're destroying our liver. We're doing three horrible things at the same time.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's the crazy
wild.
thing about it.
I hadn't
you know?
even thought about it that way.
And so, but again, this is great conversation, and I hardly ever get into this with
Yeah.
people because really, let's keep it about how much money. Basically,
Well, let me before you
Yeah.
let me. I want to try and I mean, because it is a real estate show, to kind of go into the perception of what I see on the other side about the hassle of going solar in the actual economy of the way that they've kind of built the system, and that you have these companies that lease out the solar panels to you, which can create an issue when you go to sell it, because then the person who's buying it has to take up that lease, and it's created this kind of weirdness that what do you see as the inherent issues in keeping houses adopting them, like people buying them for their houses?
ignorance.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, tell me, talk about those other, because I get the vibe that your company doesn't do that. Like your company is
lease?
Yeah.
No, you can lease.
Well, yeah.
Leasing is good if it's done right. I mean, you
Yeah.
got to understand. It's something I call the solar food chain. All right. Now, first of all, let's just before we jump into that.
Yeah.
Let's give some perspective on it. If you and your wife are going to look to buy a home, and
Yeah.
here's a home here. They're both beautiful homes, $800,000 homes, and you want to move. And this guy has got a $300 electric bill, and this guy has a $50 electric bill. Which house do you want?
Yeah, right.
That's what it is. So part of the misconception is, I don't want to go buy solar because I don't want to spend all this money on this new luxury, and I'm going to save up for it. It's like I'm going to
Yeah.
save up for a ring, or I'm going to save up for a vacation. No, this is not a new expenditure. This is money you're already spending. That's what people don't realize
Right.
is basically like, if you want to boil it down, if you're going to pay cash for solar,
Right.
you have to realize that you have to look at it as an investment. And that investment is basically a 7-year return on investment. So you basically take the amount of money that you're going to give to the utility in the next 7 years anyway.
Right.
If you can afford to pay that in cash right now, and it's not going to hurt you, then
Right.
do it, because you're going to get 35 years of power.
Right.
It's an enormous return on investment.
Right.
But in 7 years, I have 4 cash customers, because very few people can afford to do that.
Right.
And so it's a false equivalency. They compare apples and oranges. They go, I got a $150 electric bill. I'm not going to go spend $20,000.
Right.
Well, let's compare apples and oranges.
Right.
So $20,000 is what it'll cost for 35 years of power.
Right.
How much is it going to cost you? That $20,000 you're going to spend in 7 years with the utility.
Right.
In 20 years, and I have an Excel sheet that shows if it only goes up 3.5%, what it'll be. Basically, you're going to spend double, triple.
Well, because you
times
don't
as
know
much.
what that kind of energy is going to be costing later on. It
Well,
can
we
actually.
It's interesting because now we actually do know over the next 5 years exactly what it's
Oh,
going to
do
do,
you really?
because the utilities have put it out for us.
Oh,
Never
got it.
before have I seen that. But so the point is, if you're going to compare 20,000, you got to compare that to like 90,000, right? And if you're going to pay $150 a month, great. What's your payment on that $20,000 system? Like $127 or whatever. So you want to compare apples and oranges? Great.
Yeah.
You cannot poke a hole in solar at all, unless you just don't like what they look like.
Yeah,
And
right.
if you don't like what they look like, you need to get used to it anyway, because 1,000 families a day are going solar in California,
Right, you're
and
gonna
your
be on
neighbors
the-
are going to have it.
exactly.
So and I respect that if you don't like it, but that's the only real objection. Now, the other real objection used to be about people who couldn't, they didn't have good credit.
Yeah.
But today there's PACE programs that actually can help people if they have equity in the home, and
Well,
we'll
that's a
talk
good.
about that.
And so the folks, I mean, because that's sometimes that limit of trying to get into that market is that they have bad credit.
It's gotten so much. So back to your question. So I
Yeah.
gave the perspective on that.
Yeah, right.
You got to realize that, like, if you're going to go buy a car today, and you want to buy a Prius, right?
Yeah.
And well, let's not use a Prius. Let's use another car, just a gas car.
Okay.
You know, you want to go buy a nice, $50,000 Mercedes, or you could buy the same exact Mercedes, but I'm going to give you $1 a gallon gas card with it. Right?
Yeah.
That's what buying a home with a lease or with anything on it is. I mean, and I'm going to get into the specific leases, but that's basically what you're doing is you're coming in and you are saving money immediately because your operations cost is lower. So that's what you got to understand. It's
So-
like you have a home with a mini power plant on it.
Absolutely. So how can folks kind of get, navigate the kind of, whatever the process of getting into the solar? Like, I mean, is it as complicated as everybody kind of paints it out to be?
No, it's. I mean, there's some things, and I, when I do a talk about that, I tell people I want them to see where are the warts and where, but mostly the warts are things that are avoidable, and and by the way, it's like, I was trying to think of a better example. People at home can't see it, but it's almost like saying, "Hey, Steve's wearing a yellow shirt, right?"
Yeah.
Well, I'm wearing a black shirt. You can see it, but there's a little yellow dot on it, and if somebody just zeroed in on that yellow dot, they'd say, "There's a yellow shirt," but that's not what it is. And again, that's why 1,000 families a day are going solar, not so they can get scammed. I mean, we would know about this already. It would have been on 60 Minutes 10 years ago. So anyway, so if you want to boil down financing, it's what I call the solar food chain. So at the bottom of the solar food chain is what's called the power purchase agreement. It's an agreement to purchase power from your home. On top of that is an escalating lease. On top of that is a fixed lease. And then you have a loan for solar, and then you have cash. So at the bottom is the power purchase agreement. It's typically a they give you a rate on your electricity. So the easiest way to do this, if you look at your electric bill and you see what you're buying what's called kilowatt hours, and it's on the bill. You'll see it right there. So let's say 1,000 kilowatt hours, which is typically, like, let's call it 200 so the math is easier. If it's $200 to buy 1,000 kilowatt hours, you're paying 20 cents on average for your kilowatt hour from the utility. So if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, listen, we're going to put something on your roof that's going to make your electricity, and you'll pay us 14 cents. Nice, right? But here's the thing: we're going to just raise it 2.99% every year, but no problem. And then you're never going to be able to own the system at the end. So why would you do that? Well, if you think if the utility rate is higher, which it is in this case, and if you think it's going to go up higher than 2.99, you'll save some money, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people, I think, are zapped because they get a lot of people who are very short-sighted that look at that number and they go, "Oh my God, look how low that number is." But it's going to continue to rise, and you're not getting anything for your money. You're basically switching vendors to somebody else who's going to do the same thing to you. But a lot of people were kind of caught by that, and a lot of the bigger companies, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus right now, but a lot of the bigger ones, they make a lot of money on that with the financing. So that is what I call, that's the bottom of the solar food chain.
Right.
The escalating lease is a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's exactly the same thing, but at the end you can buy your system for a residual, and then you own your system. Now both of those are basically what a lot of people got into, because these big companies that do the advertising, and you know who they are on the radio and TV. Of course. They want you to be in one of these things, and it's great for their investors. Right. You're gonna get more and more payments through the year, whatever. Mm-hmm. So in Arizona, there were a lot of people that had to take a lot of their homes off the market, because do you want to buy a home with this time bomb on it?
Right.
It's horrible. So to me, that's the bottom feeder. That's what I hate. It's disgusting about. Now, I've been able to win a lot of jobs because of that, because you show it to somebody and they go, "What the hell is this?" It's an adjustable rate mortgage. So that's the bottom line. Now, the fixed lease, that is what changed solar. That's something that, it's kind of like, I can't think of a better example, but it's like, it's something to be really proud about, that is still around and it's still good, but things have gotten better. It's kind of like when football players went to the leather helmet and then they went to the, So the fixed lease was, "Hey, listen, I know it's really expensive to spend all this money on solar, and we don't have any warranty. We don't have anything to back it up with you, because this is what it was at that time.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, we'll buy the system for you, and we're going to lower your electric bill, and it's never going to go up again." Right. How about that? Right. And then at the end, if you want, you could buy the system out, or you can go lease another one. Of course. How much would you saved if you were still paying $1 a gallon? That's what it is. It's that $1 a gallon. It's fixed. The fixed cost is what the product, that's the number one product of what solar, that's really your number one benefit, is fixing your cost. And people don't realize it. I mean, if you were still paying 90 cents, it'd be better. right? But the fact of the matter is that's just a little gravy. The fact that it didn't move in those years, when looking back, you go,
Right.
that's amazing.
Right.
So that's the fixed lease, and that was kind of the grandfather of what really propelled solar. When you look at where solar sales and everything started to soar, it was around then, like 2005, 2006.
Right.
So the fixed lease is awesome. But then as we kept doubling and tripling and financing got better and better, you were able to take out a loan and get the same protections as that lease, right? You have a company
Right.
behind it taking care of you, and you own that system outright from not outright, but you own that system from the beginning, and you're making payments on it.
Right, right.
So it's more attractive for a realtor to sell that
Absolutely,
house.
yeah.
So that's above that. And then, of course, cash is king.
Yeah,
If
right.
you can afford to do it, if you can afford to put down 7 years of your electric bill
Yeah.
right now, then it's amazing. It's an incredible return on investment.
Now, have there been any kind of advancements in terms of bringing the cost down at all, or is that?
There has, but it's really, so it's funny because I have a chart with all
Because I
these-
think that's a huge kind of hurdle that a lot of folks kind of in their brains are kind of keeping as like why keeping them from doing it. And if that was to somehow come down slightly or even more, it would be much more adopted and more business would open up.
It actually has. I mean, historically, when you look at and I have the graphs to show people what I was telling you before about when you saw solar sales explode, et cetera. There's two things here. Number one was solar cells used to be about $100 a watt in 1975. Today, they are 44.5 cents a watt.
Wow.
That's a 99.6% decrease.
Wow.
So how much lower are they going to go?
Sure.
So let's say they're free.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I do with people sometimes to show them, right? And I have a little chart, and I'll try to remember it as I tell you. But so first of all, what's happened in technology is that the same 3x5 space that used to be a 250 watt panel today is about a 290 or something.
Okay.
So all that means is that a 6 kilowatt system on your roof would have been 24 panels, and today it's about 21 panels. So it takes up a little bit less square
So
feet.
they are actually contracting
A little bit.
So it's not like there's a standard solar panel and that's going to be it forever.
They're getting slightly more efficient.
Interesting.
But all that means is that it'll take up less square feet on your roof.
Right.
Now, people ask, well, there's got to be a cost savings to that. Not really. Now, let's use this example. Let's say that solar is going to eventually be free in 5 years. You're going to get all the technology, the panels and the inverters for free. They're giving them away.
Right.
So you should probably just wait for solar, right? Well, let's take a look at that. So I did this for one of my friends, Andrew. He had a $150 electric bill.
Right.
Now, we know guaranteed LADWP is going up 21% in the next 5 years. Guaranteed, 3.86%
Got it.
every year for that. It was
Right.
in the newspaper last year. Edison's going up 22%.
Right.
So his $150 electric bill will be 182 or whatever in
Right,
5 years, right?
right.
So if you calculate how much money he's going to spend over the next 5 years waiting, and I'll give you that number in a second. So now let's say he's getting a 6K, and let's say he's buying it at a higher price. Let's say it's $24,000, and then he gets 30% tax credit on it. So now his net is about, 17, something like that. 5 years from now, he's going to get solar panels and inverters for free. So what does that do to his cost, right? Well, when you look at the cost of a solar project, only about 37.5% of the entire cost is that technology. 50% is equipment. Then the other parts are soft costs and installation and permits, all the other stuff, right? So, and it's hard to do it without the numbers in front of me, but that's what it is. So that $24,000 system 5 years from now will be $15,000. Awesome, right? Plus, you're going to get a tax credit, but 5 years from now, the tax credit will only be 10%. So the net cost is $13,500. So you're going to save $3,500 waiting 5 years to buy that system. But in the meantime, you need lights in your house, and you're going to spend $10,000 with a $150 electric bill going up
right.
at 21%. You're going to spend $10,000 over the next 5 years waiting to save $3,500. It doesn't make sense to wait.
All right. Ron, you got something?
Yeah. So, I'm thinking of, Steve, you talked about 7 years, right? So that's when you have the ROI. That's when you have the payoff. The average time somebody is in a home is 7 years.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have that payout and then you're going to move, so now I'm thinking, okay, so, what is the impact? And Tom, this is a question for you is, what's that impact on the marketability of that property? Having these solar panels there. And then the other thing is, can you just rip them off and take them with you? And then the other thing I'm thinking is, the technology just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better every single year. Prices go down, what have you. What happens with that, with that solar panel, that, something that you installed on day one is bright and shiny, but in 10 years from now, it's not so bright and shiny.
New model, yeah.
So first of all, we know that people move in 7.2 years, and then you're going to take your 2.4 children and your white picket fence and go someplace else, right? That's why the loan program and the lease program exists, because most people can't afford to put that money up first,
right,
to begin with, and then secondly, it's bottom line is, if the utility said to you today, you know what, Ron, we're going to lower your electric bill, we're never going to raise it again, and then one day it's going to disappear, would you say, well, I'll just wait? Or are you going to keep giving them more and more money? I mean, So number one is, if you can lower your operations cost and then fix them so they never go up, that's amazing. And then when you move, if it's a lease, when Tom buys your house, he's going to be paying the same electric bill that you paid 7 years ago. Wouldn't you love to move into a house that's paying a bill from 7 years ago? Like whatever you're paying now, $200 a month, it was what, $162? So you can move into his house and pay $162, and that never goes up, and then it disappears one day. So you got to remember that, number one. As far as taking them off doesn't make sense, because what the new information here is that solar homes sell for $4 a watt more than non-solar homes, and this comes from an article that was published by Realtor magazine. Not by Solar Guy magazine. So this is, and for years we've always known solar homes sell faster for more money, but how much? Well, when this article came out, I think it's called "Appraising into the Sun." It was a study done on 6 different states, and it was published by Realtor magazine. And I show it to people. This is so your home is going to be worth So you put a 5 kilowatt system on your roof right now, you've increased the value of that house by $20,000. Period. So that's what happens with that. So taking it off the roof, when Tom buys your house, he wants that house with the $1 a gallon gas card on it. So it's more valuable, and he'll pay more for that house. And then when you go to the new house, you get some new solar.
Now, when you're making that transition from one seller to another, to a buyer, is there anything that can be done to streamline the process? If we are handing off a lease, how would you recommend kind of prepping everything and getting
the lease is, bottom line is that it has to be approved, which is an easy thing. If you're approving him for a $700,000 house, you can
probably shouldn't be an issue, right?
It's not going to be. Right? I mean, some people, look, if they're really tight, then that might be an issue with them. And maybe you'll have, the seller will pay some of it when it goes to escrow or whatever. But it's actually still a good thing. But like I said, I mean, you'll see, you'll have to deal with that. And then that's really the whole thing. I think what a lot of people have heard about is the lien on the house. Oh my God, right. There's a lien on the house. Right. That is for the PACE program.
Okay. So describe the PACE program so people know.
So most people, like if you have good solid credit, you're going to be able to get more private financing. And it's not like Bank of America is doing this, and it's great if these banks were doing it, but there's more like, there's Mosaic is one of the programs, there's Energy Loan Network, some of these, and they are designed to do solar loans, and they're actually very good. If you're struggling, then you use what's called the PACE program, which is a property assessed clean energy. Okay. And most people have heard about the HERO program, which is the biggest one. There's CalFirst, there's one called Y Green. NRG has one called, I think it's Alliance, the Alliance thing. But that's what it is. It's assessed on your property. So you pay it on your property taxes, okay?
Right.
And you will have a lien on it. It'll take first position. So that's the big boogeyman is that it's...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, that's true, but they subrogate anyway when you move. And it has to be paid off, and then they'll subrogate. The real issue is if a lot of contractors will use these programs because you can do what's called a know before you go. So I can look up your address, and I can look and see, wow, you're 90% possibly approved for a $117,000 loan. Some unscrupulous contractors do it that. They just chase people like that. Hey, let's put solar up. Hey, did you know you had another $90,000? And people will start signing up for things that they may not be able to afford. And they also are duped into this thing because with the PACE program, you basically wait until the end of the year to pay it. So people are led to believe that, hey, I'm not paying for it.
Right.
And
What you pay.
You got to let people know, here's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, and it's a lot of times you're preying on people. A lot of people, if they have credit challenges, I mean, you're preying on people who are really, barely treading water. And you're giving them this relief, and then, hey, we got this, we got that. And if they're not being told the whole story, that's why it's important for them to understand everything about it. But that's where there's a nightmare, is obviously like in anything else. If somebody doesn't have integrity and they're not really telling you the whole picture, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to something also about technology, just give you a little thing. So, we both have Priuses, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm doing it because I drive 100 miles a day. So I need, so now I'm going to own my car.
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
Totally does.
Oh my God, it makes a difference. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So I get 50, let's call it 50 miles to the gallon, which it's not really, but
yeah.
So I drive 100 miles a day. So I get 40 gallons a month, and I'm paying $3 a gallon. So I pay $120 a month in gas. Now, 2 years from now, let's say technology doubles and Toyota comes out with a 100-mile-a-gallon car.
Yeah.
Should I get that car? Save me a lot of money, right?
It would depend on what the price of gas is, though, right?
So, let's say gas is whatever. Let's say gas is the same.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Even still, it's $4. Whatever.
Okay.
I'm still. If it's the same, now I'm going to pay $60 a month for gas. So I should get that car.
Yeah.
So now I got to pay $400 a month to save 60. Whereas I don't have to pay anything. If I own my car in 2 years, I don't have any more car payments.
Right.
And should I pay $120 a month versus 400 plus 60? And that's the point. If you have a system that's remember, it's not about, well, I have an old TV and the screens are better and this and that. If I have a machine that makes my electricity, 100% of my electricity, and now I own this machine and I don't have to pay for it anymore, and it's going to keep giving me energy for the next 20 to 35 years. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. Now, if it's an aesthetic thing, like you've seen some of these old dinosaurs that are out there, and your wife doesn't like it, and let's take that down. It's an eyesore, okay? But that's the thing, is you got to realize that 10 years from now, does it make sense to spend thousands of dollars to take a system off and put another one on just because it's going to take a little square foot less on your roof? So that's the idea there. Mm-hmm. People have to continue. It's not like this commodity that, hey, I want to go buy this thing. I want to go buy this, mink coat, or I want to buy this thing. It's you're paying. It's not a good analogy today because we don't live on farms, but it's like if you moved into a house that has cows in the backyard. You're making your own milk. Why go to the store and buy it? You're making your own milk.
Right. And tell me a little bit about the whole process of selling your energy back to the grid. I mean, that's still a thing, right? I mean, in terms of your solar panels are creating so much energy. It's what stores it, or how does it? Tell me how that process works in terms of getting that back out to the grid and getting a credit for it.
Yeah, it's you're not really selling it per se. I mean, you can sell it, but you're not going to make money on that. Now, it's called net metering. So what happens is that you wake up in the morning and it's dark outside, and you turn your lights on, and where does your power come from?
Battery, I'm assuming, or
no?
You mean if it doesn't have a solar?
Well, even if you have solar, if you have solar, and the sun's not shining, you're not getting energy. So you got to get it from the utility. So you're still connected to them.
Got it.
So you're going to buy from the utility,
right? And
now the sun comes out, and you get the energy from
the solar
your
panels,
roof, right?
Right.
And now you leave. You guys go to work and school, and the house is making energy, and you don't need it.
Right.
So where does it go?
Right.
It goes back to the grid. And so today you get a one-on-one conversion. So when you give back 10 kilowatt hours and you bought 10 in the morning, you're now 0.
Yeah.
So now all day you're sending back. So let's say you send another 30 kilowatt hours back, and then the sun goes down, you come home, make some dinner, blah, 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 and you use another 10. They owe you 20 kilowatt hours today. Okay.
Right.
So that's net metering. Now, throughout the year, it's going to change. There's going to be like the winter months, the system's not going to create as much as it normally would. Well, not normally. There's a flow of what it does. It'll create less in the winter. We have shorter days, the angle of the sun, and then more in the spring and summer. So in the winter months, you're going to be buying more from the utility, and in the spring and summer, it depends on how you're sized, but you're going to be trading it back and forth.
I've got a question actually. In terms of, is it possible at all to completely remove yourself from the grid?
Yeah.
I mean, let's say you have like one of those Tesla batteries or something, that stores that power. Can you do it? And you're saying yes.
You can.
You can.
It's just more expensive.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you're, the bottom line is because of the way this net energy metering is set up, it really doesn't make a lot of economic sense for people to do that. And batteries are more, I mean, if you're Grizzly Adams and you're living in Montana, get a battery backup, get a generator, put yourself off the grid.
Right.
Out here, it's not as cost effective. And batteries are still relatively new to the market. They're
Right.
going to continue to get better, and they're going to get less expensive.
Right.
Now, if you're going to, let's say, God forbid, you got somebody in the home who is on an oxygen machine, or
Yeah.
there's something that you really. So now this is a life-saving device. So you got to look at the battery as a life-saving device versus it's not cost-effective because it's more expensive. I mean, it's. I'm buying a car, and now I have to go buy, I don't know, the garage to put the car in. I mean, it's an expense for that system.
Ron, got something?
Yeah, so Tom, you were talking about your client that wants to put those Tesla style tiles on there.
Right.
And when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, that's exactly what Tesla does, right? So you have the people that may not want a Prius and they may not want that style of car, but then they look at the Tesla and it's a sports car, right? And now they're like, oh, I could see myself using that. And it's the same thing with solar. They were like, I don't want that big box sitting on top of my roof. But if it's a tile and it looks like tile, and it might even be a cooler looking tile than what's out there, when is that going to be available? And is that something you would be able to?
It is available.
It is available.
Yeah. Well, first of all, solar tiles have been available for years. It's just that
really?
people heard about it because Elon Musk is doing it.
Oh,
Yeah,
seriously? You're telling me that those have been around?
Been around for years.
Because
but
the big
not
brouhaha,
not his. I mean, he's.
No, I get it,
Yeah.
but but basically they made a big old announcement where he's standing in front of a big house with a
Right.
big roof, and
I saw like one video on YouTube and I was like, wow.
that's like the second coming.
so cool.
But you're telling me it
That's
was
always been around.
Well,
before.
first of all, they do an amazing job of marketing. I mean,
Shows us,
he's incredible with that. But remember, this is Solar City, by the way. This is Solar
Right.
City and Tesla, so that's his
He
company.
owns
so,
it, yeah.
So that's what it is. Solar City and Tesla.
That's
are together.
right, they do
So
own
that's
them,
what they
yeah.
did, and Elon Musk is he's a genius. He's one of those. Thank God that.
Well, he's a
Einstein-
great brander. I mean,
He's-
that's what's amazing about him is that we know Tesla, but we also know Elon Musk at the same time. It's like
Right.
he takes as much time to kind of sell himself almost as Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
did
I mean,
a great
he
job
is
of
like
it,
Steve Jobs because before the iPad and the iPod,
Right.
way back in the day, Creative Labs had a little device. Microsoft had the Zune. So all these companies, they had a similar type platform, but people didn't even know about it until it was the iPod.
To an identity of a
Right.
genius that's kind of
Yeah.
it overtakes everything. But anyway, you were saying
it's
that,
kind of like I mean, if you think the interpretation of that Steve Jobs movie is really accurate, then it's very apropos to him because Steve Jobs in that movie was brilliant. But one of the brilliant things about him was that he was able to see the timing. Remember, like in that movie, it was like it was like when they put out the Cube.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
He had his own
He
company.
knew it was
Right.
going to fail. Right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he knew like
Yeah.
he
Yep.
there was a point. Remember that scene where he's talking with her in the hallway when she's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you. And he finally did, and it was like you bastard! Like
Right.
you knew this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But we're not sinking. We got onto Noah's Ark, right? So
Right.
so Elon knows these things, and I'm not gonna. There's a reason why I do what I do because there's you can get more value this way, and I love him. I love that he exists. They're very expensive.
Okay.
And I don't
basically your net-
want to pan it.
So, but what you're saying is that your net, what you think is that the net of it, yeah, it's cool. You got a solar roof, but the actual net cost of it doesn't really work out to the value.
If you're going to get you got to look at it as what's the cost of replacing an entire roof.
Yeah, right. Because that's
And getting solar. So if you're going to replace a roof and get solar, would it make sense? From what I understand from people that I know that are at that company, because I wanted to find out, because as a broker I can do that. I mean, I have access to it.
Yeah.
I have a customer who asked me, and so we did a little thing, and it was like going to be $56,000 to do tiles all over his house, or we could have put a $20,000 system on the roof that he already had. So, now if aesthetically, I think they look cool as hell, right? So if you like that, if you want to buy those tiles because you like what they look like, great, and you'll have an added benefit to it as well. But it's not going to be as efficient as a solar panel is. And they, again, the other knock is, they're usually late on delivery with things. So,
that's true. I
had a customer who wanted to spend the money, and I said, okay, well, let's apply for it. Whatever. These tiles may not be ready till 2018, and then they always are late with things. But it's great that it's out there, that people know about it, and they're looking into it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's also a lot to do with what's this condition of the roof as it is. Because maybe it makes sense if you're having to completely rip off your roof anyway.
Right.
Maybe
It does.
maybe there's more of a not just kind of like, oh, I think they're really cool. I think I'm going to go get me some. That's a different conversation.
Well, that's another cool thing is that, and that applies to the Tesla roof, but it also applies to if you're not doing the Tesla roof. So that's another reason why, because I was in the industry for a long time, and there were certain things that kept coming up that conventional companies couldn't do. So like, for instance, you want to go solar, but you need a roof, and you're like, I got to go pay for a $20,000 roof. I got to wait for that because nobody's going to put the system on and give me the warranty or whatever. So now, I mean, you can put the system. So my friend Jeff did this. He needed a $20,000 roof. He was willing to pay cash for it. I said, what if the roof pays for itself and you get your $20,000 roof for 14? And that's what we did. We financed the whole thing. Now, so, and I want to be specific about it too, but so basically you're putting the solar on, which is basically an ATM machine, so it's paying for itself. And because you're doing them both together, then that $20,000, that roof and the solar together is part of the project. So you can still get 30% on it. Now, technically, you can really only get the portion of the roof that is under the solar arrays. Right?
Okay, got it.
Some accountants will be more aggressive with that, others won't, whatever. But that's the bottom line. It's still a significant chunk that you're able to take away for doing it. And you had to pay for the roof anyway. You know what I mean? So that's an awesome thing.
Yeah.
So that's out there, and we're doing a lot of those. It's so cool. I mean, and then when you look at the payment plans, and it's like, for a lot of these customers, I'm doing it, and they are doing a roof and solar at the same time. And it's about the same as what they paid before, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But it's like, I got a new roof, and this solar is going to pay for itself. It's like, it's insane. It's incredible.
Well, we're going to be, we're kind of pulling into what am I going to say? We're about to land. We're
going to put our seat tables up.
We're
coming up on the approach.
We're coming up on the approach. This is supposed to be a lot more organic in the transition. But for the final thing is just kind of, what do you think, what would you want to tell folks out there in terms of solar as a whole? B, what is it that, as a broker, you're talking about different pieces that you can put together that can help really have a net efficiency, I think is what we're really talking about. And what is it that, what are those things that can kind of help get people to turn the corner and do this?
It's hard to talk about turning the corner because I see them turning the corner. I mean, it's just
you're actually seeing that, which is awesome on the ground.
I mean, that's the thing is you got to remember, like 7 years ago, when I first started, people were signing up for solar and they were paying $20 a month more than they were paying yesterday.
Yeah.
And why were they doing it? Because they were fixing their costs. Today, you walk into a house and they're dropping their cost. But there's really. The bottom line is that solar works. People have to realize that. Like, what I would say to people is what I said before, which is 20 minutes of the sun can power the entire planet for a year.
Right.
There's enormous power. This is the solar system that we live in, right? I mean, that's the sun.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that you don't think solar is going to save you money, you're not recognizing how enormously powerful that thing is out there.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's got a competitive edge is because what we're paying, like what these guys are paying their electric bill, they're paying for someone to find coal, rip it out of the ground, pulverize it, steam it, create electricity.
It's just not efficient.
They have to generate it,
and
then they have to send it to you. So you're paying for generation and delivery.
Right.
Mother Nature is generating it for us. There's no generation cost.
Well, and I think that one of the biggest things that I see in just society in general right now, and in terms of all the disruptions that are happening in all the industries, it almost completely centers on the removal of the middleman. So much of it is taking out that middle person who is somehow making things more inefficient, making it more expensive. Things like Bitcoin. The whole thing about Bitcoin was we have you and me need to do a deal, but between us is this bank where I have to put the money into a bank, and then the bank charges me a fee and all that, and we take out that person and we leave them out of the whole thing, right? We have Uber, where it used to be the taxi cab company. There's the guy who drives, and then there's the people who get picked up, and we remove that middleman because they're not needed. So I think there's kind of a similarity here in terms of that you're generating energy on your roof, and yes, there's still that at nighttime you need to have the that connection to the grid or whatever. Maybe that's something that goes away. But more and more, we're taking out that middleman. Am I on the right track here?
Well, yeah. I mean, what I guess if you're going to give a takeaway, have someone who you think knows what they're talking about, that you can trust, that can give you the overview. Take the time to sit down with somebody. And if you don't trust them, if you don't think they know what they're talking about, go find somebody else. But solar works. Find the right guy to talk to, number one. And the number two is, if you want some bullet points about what you're looking for, is you want to have 25-year manufacturer warranty, a performance warranty on your equipment.
Right.
If something goes wrong, what happens? Well, the warranty, the manufacturer has to replace that equipment. If you can get a long workmanship warranty, the state requires 5. Some really good companies out there give 10, some give 25, right? Now, and those are the only guys I'm using, because I don't want a headache from my customers. And then if you can get a production warranty, that's also great. So you're covered 3 different ways. So that's really the bottom line, is you want to be able to make sure, and you want to be able to see what your system is producing. You need a monitor so you can see it.
Right.
And then you should be, then you're fine. I mean, solar is going to work. Financing, people get stuck with the financing stuff, and they stop themselves. They get in their way because I don't want to pay for this. It's not this is not a new thing. You're not spending new money. You're just going to spend a whole lot less than what you were going to spend. And by the way, you're turning your negative income into positive cash flow and equity. So remember that, so don't compare apples and oranges. Just, even if you're scared or whatever, just sit down and listen, and just realize, hey, there's stuff I don't know about this. Yeah. Let's be open and see what it is, because the fact is, and it's a whole lot easier for me today because there's hundreds of thousands of people have done this, so you have neighbors. Everybody knows somebody who has solar.
Yeah.
Now, the last thing is, commercial is insane. I mean, There's other benefits to commercial on top of this. There's depreciation. There's return on investment is faster. The other thing, too, is so commercial, if you own a commercial building, you should have solar on it. Now, if you have people who are renting from you, then, you can do that, or retrofits. Do the retrofits. You can get huge rebates from the utility. We do that, too. I have a couple companies that are amazing that do that. They do the retrofits for the 24-hour parking lots downtown.
Oh, right.
Insane. I mean, you get this enormous rebate from the utility, and if it's not solar, you're dropping your usage. And you drop your usage by 42% or 52 or 16, whatever. You just immediately lower your cost because of that. And then you can slap solar on top of that. It's just, there's so many things. I mean, it's out there. It's already there. Just tap into it. This stuff works.
Now, one last little quick thing, and I know we were saying that was the last thing, but this is the last thing. You as a broker, what would you say are the advantages of going to a broker as compared to one of the big, companies that is just kind of like one size fits all? So take just a very quick moment to kind of explain why is a broker a better choice than going to like SolarCity or whatever they are?
Well, because if you go to a company, that person wants to sell for that particular company.
Right.
Their focus is to help that particular company.
And all their benefits come from selling what they're...
All comes from that.
Yeah.
For me, my focus is on, my focus is on trying to get you the maximum value, because I want you to love solar. I want you to get maximum value. I want more customers. Obviously I want you to refer people to me.
Of course.
But I want to be responsible for people who are happy about it. I don't want 7-8 years from now something breaking down or busting down and somebody feeling like they got scammed, because solar is amazing and it works. So I want this that's my legacy, right? So that's me personally. But it's that I work directly for the customer, and I don't know a lot of people who are brokers. But I've had enough experience in the industry that I know who the really good players are, where you're going to get top value, and you're going to have integrity and what to use in different situations. So if you know somebody who's been around and knows these different things and has access to different things, then they can take care of you. You go shopping for something, and hey, let's put this jacket on, but let's go get these shoes over here, and hey, let's get this and let's get that. We put that outfit together for you, and you look sharp, and you got everything you wanted for you. You like this color, but you don't like this fabric, whatever. So it's the same type of thing. So it's about taking the key elements of what this program is about and putting them together uniquely for the customer.
That's great. Steve, I mean, I just want to say that in this period of time talking to you, just seeing the passion that you bring to this, I mean, it's obviously, it's like you get folks that you talk to, and it's kind of like, well, you can see the sale coming, all that kind of thing. But it's very obvious that how you feel, that you really truly feel passionate about this stuff. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really want to thank you for coming.
I'm thankful that it's there because, as you know, I mean, you were in the industry
Yeah.
and when you're in, entertainment and you love stuff and I mean, you had your passion projects and you're trying to make these things, and then you have the show and you're up against the Kardashians, and they bought that show instead of this one, and it's
Right.
like it's so hard to do something you love. And then when this came around, I was like, this is a no-brainer. I don't have to. There's no selling here. It's just show people what this is so they could pick what it is, and it's just it feels good. I mean, I want my kids and my grandkids to be able to breathe air and drink water. I mean, it's insane what's going on out there.
More solar, less Kardashians.
Sweet. I'm going to make that into a shirt.
That's right.
Sell it on the website. All right. Well, thank you so much. Why don't you have contact info? Why don't you go ahead and give everybody your contact info
Sure.
so everybody can get in touch
My
with
name
you.
is Steve Hochman, Hochman. My website is www.thesolarhawk.com. If you go there, you'll see a lot of our commercial jobs. You'll see, and my phone number is 818-402-4166. If you want to speak to me directly, you can email me at steve@thesolarhawk.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's about it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to leave them for us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Clarified Realty Podcast, all one word. If you have any questions about real estate or you're looking for someone to help you buy or sell a home, remember, I'm actually a licensed real estate agent. I'd love to help you out. So please email me directly at tom@clarifiedrealty.com or give me a call at 818-335-7662. Don't be shy. Come on, guys, give me a ring. For more exclusive bonus content and advice between episodes, please check out our website, www.clarifiedrealty.com. Also on our homepage, you'll find links to helpful buyer and seller guides. They can give you some great information for starting your home buying or home seller process, so definitely check those out. I'm on Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram as well. My handle for all three of those are @ClarifiedRealty. Please leave feedback and reviews on iTunes or in the comments section on our page. Together we're stronger, guys, so if you have any questions or ways that we can make this podcast even better, please let us know. My amazing theme song, Hey Now, is from the band Wolf. That's Wolf with 2 Fs. And please go check them out and like them on SoundCloud. They rock so freaking hard, they can generate enough heat to power a small country. Probably just Uruguay, but hey, that's something. And just a little disclaimer, I'm licensed by the California Bureau of Real Estate. My real estate license number is 01715353. Ron's is?
Guaranteed rate, NMLS 2611, NMLS ID 558706, California.
The advice we give is only for properties located in the state of California. For all other states, please contact your local real estate agent or real estate professional. Well, that's about it for me, Ron. You all good?
I'm good, man.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. And remember, the greatest thing you can ever do is make someone feel at home. Take care. We'll see you next week.
What you gonna do? Hey now, 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 hey now. What you gonna do with your life?